Hello everyone, this is Afrin Saleha, DL in Chemistry from TTWRDC Men, Nagar Karnool. I hope you all are doing fine. So, in our today's video lecture, I'll be discussing about an interesting topic of chemistry which is related to our basic life. Okay, if I tell you to think about the the basic requirements we need to exist a life on earth, we would say food, water, air. And in air specifically, if I say, we'll call oxygen, isn't it? Now tell me, now just think, when we eat food, the food goes into our stomach, isn't it? There it gets digested. But does my other body parts also need food? The food we eat is going into stomach, but to my other body parts also, like for example, this is my finger. Does my finger need food? Yes, it needs food. Then how the food is getting transported from stomach to finger? We need some transporting agent to do that, isn't it? In a similar way, if I talk about oxygen, oxygen from air is inhaled and it goes into lungs. So will the oxygen be placed in lungs only? Does my fingers and other body parts also needs oxygen? Yes, they also need oxygen. So oxygen from all lungs is also need to be supplied to other body parts. Okay. So we need a transporting agent which will supply these oxygen and food materials to other body parts. Now just think, do we have anything in our body which is present from toe, like head to toe? Yes, we do have it. We have a red color liquid flowing throughout our body, and that is called as blood. So this blood will be used as a transporting agent to carry food material, to carry oxygen to other body parts. Okay. Now what will happen now if in blood, overall the blood will carry this oxygen and food to other body parts. And if specifically if I say, like in blood, the RBC will carry, red blood cells will carry the oxygen and food to the other body parts. And specifically inside RBC, the substance responsible for oxygen transport is hemoglobin. So in our today's class, we'll be exploring this wonderful transporting agent which is present in our body called as hemoglobin. So our topic for today will be hemoglobin. Now let us see, before moving into hemoglobin, now let us see at first, as soon as we go into the term hemoglobin, the first question which pops up into our mind is, what is hemoglobin and where is it found? Like, what do we, where is hemoglobin actually is? So how does it look like? Okay. So at first we'll be exploring where is hemoglobin, and to answer this question we need to understand what is blood, what are the components of blood. So for that we'll move on to our next slide. Okay. This is the components of whole blood. Okay. These are the components of whole blood. Like whenever you see blood, it will appear as a red color liquid, isn't it? It just appears as a red color liquid. Now when you centrifuge this red color liquid, you will have 4 different components inside the blood. You will come to know that blood is not just a red color liquid. It's something more than that. It is having 4 parts. Those are a yellow color part which makes up the 55% of whole blood is plasma, and then you have a red colored part which is called as erythrocytes or red blood cells, and you will be having WBC, white blood cells, and platelets. Overall there are 4 components in blood. Okay. So now to explore blood more clearly, I would like to show you a video, and for that we'll move on to this one. Okay, so you just have a look at this video where we will be seeing the components of blood. Okay, so before understanding what is hemoglobin, we got to know what are the components of blood. Now look here, students. This is the whole blood. Look here. This is the whole blood, isn't it? The blood is just a red color liquid in appearance only. But when you see inside it, when you see clear, like when you centrifuge and observe, you will get 4 parts. Okay, it will have some of the substances like this. Okay, so now the first substance will be, now we'll discuss what are the components we have seen. As we have already seen in this slide, the first component is this. These cells are called as red blood cells. Okay, these cells are responsible for transport of oxygen from lungs to the other body parts. Okay, so in blood we are having 4 components, and every component is performing some different function. Among that, our RBC is performing oxygen transport, and then we have the next type of cell is next component of blood called as, that next component is white blood cells. Okay, this is the white blood cells, and these white blood cells, what they'll do, they'll help in fighting diseases. Okay, they'll help you whenever a foreign agent enters our body. The white blood cells will come up and they'll fight with that foreign agent. Okay, these are the white blood cells. Okay, they will help in fighting the foreign antigens. Now the next component is blood platelets. These are the blood platelets. What these will do, whenever you will have a wound or a scar, what will happen? These platelets from blood will join. They'll close up this space and they'll fill up this space, and they'll help in the curing of that wound. Okay, this is the function of platelets, blood platelets. Now the last component of blood is, it is called as plasma. Okay, plasma is a yellow color liquid which helps in transport of like some of the nutrients, and it also helps in, it will also help us in blood clotting agents. It will have some of the blood clotting agents. Okay, so in this way we'll be our blood is having different components. Okay, so this is our blood having different components. Overall we are seeing it as a red color liquid, but it is having something more inside than just a red color liquid. It is having all these 4 components, and each component is helping us in a different way. Okay, now, and even though it has plasma, the red color is so dominating, the red blood cells color is so dominating that even though the yellow color plasma is present, the whole blood appears as a red color fluid or a red color liquid. Okay, so this is about the components of blood, and our topic of interest lies in this erythrocyte. We are concerned with these red blood cells. Okay, so based upon the video we studied the structure of blood, and like it is having white blood cells, it's having plate cells, and it's having the red blood cells. Okay, so now our topic of interest is red blood cells. Now the blood is red in color because of the presence of red blood cells. Okay, so now moving on, now where does our hemoglobin lies then? So to understand that, have a look at this slide, students. Here you can see that a human body is composed of arteries and veins wherein blood will flow inside it. And when blood is flowing, it is not just a simple red color liquid, it is having the 4 components, and among that The red colored cells are called as red blood cells. Inside this red blood cells lies our topic, lies our component, our topic of this video lecture, which is called as hemoglobin. As you can observe in this diagram that the RBC is consisting of this folded kind of structure, and this structure is nothing but hemoglobin. So oxygen transporting agent is hemoglobin. Now what we studied that at initial level blood was the transporting agent, and when we moved inside the components of blood, we came to know about red blood cells. So red blood cells were the transporting agent. Now specifically which part of RBC is carrying oxygen, means that oxygen is supplied, is transported throughout the body with the help of hemoglobin. Okay, now let us next explore the structure of hemoglobin. Okay, now we'll see the structure of hemoglobin. How does it look like, and we'll move into the chemistry part of the hemoglobin. What is there in is the hemoglobin which is helping it, which is making it efficient to carry oxygen, from lungs to the other body parts. Okay, so let's move on to our next slide. This is the hemoglobin. Okay, now your hemoglobin consists of iron containing matter. What it is? It's an iron containing matter in RBC. As just now we have seen, it is present inside that red colored cells. It's the chromoprotein. That means hemoglobin is containing a protein part. It's actually a protein along with the chromo group. Chromo means nothing but color. So till now we knew that blood is red in color due to the presence of red blood cells. But now after getting into the details, now we'll come to know that the red color of blood will be due to the presence of hemoglobin. Okay, now so it is called as chromoprotein. Then 95% of dry weight of RBC accounts for hemoglobin only, and 30 to 34% of its net weight. So what is happening? The whole of the RBC, almost all, is composed of hemoglobin. Okay, and hemoglobin carries respiratory gases. That means hemoglobin, what are the respiratory gases? Oxygen and carbon dioxide, isn't it? So these respiratory gases will be transported from lungs to body parts, and from body parts to lungs with the help of this wonderful transporting agent hemoglobin. Okay, and we'll study about this in detail in our further slide. So it is acting as a buffer also. So it acts as buffer, means buffer is a substance which will not let the pH of a solution to change. It will maintain the pH. Okay, so for example, what is the pH of our blood? It is neutral. So if the pH, if due to some of actions or some of the reactions, if the pH of the blood is decreased, what this hemoglobin will do? This hemoglobin will make up the pH to the normal level. It will not let the pH to fall. So it is acting as a buffer. Okay, and the molecular weight is 64.5 kilodalton, and the average hemoglobin, like a healthy individual, for a good oxygen transport, they must have 14 to 60 gram per deciliter of hemoglobin. Okay, so this was the general introduction about hemoglobin. Now we'll be exploring the structure of hemoglobin in detail. Okay, so look here, student, this is the hemoglobin. Now hemoglobin, as the name suggests, it is made up of two parts, heme and globin part. Heme is containing iron part, and globin is the containing the protein part. Okay, now the clear further division you can observe in this tree diagram. Okay, so at first we will be having the hemoglobin, which is composed of two parts, heme and globin. Okay, now the heme part is again made up of two subunits, iron and one porphyrin ring. Whereas globin chain, globin is a protein, is a sequence of amino acids. So globin protein chain is consisting of 4 polypeptide chains, among which 2 will be alpha chains and 2 will be beta chains. Okay, alpha chain will be having 141 amino acids, whereas beta chain will be having 146 amino acids. Okay, so now overall our heme is composed of 2 parts. Heme, globin. Heme is again divided into 2 parts, iron and porphyrin ring. And globin chain, it's having 4 polypeptide chain, 2 out of which 2 are alpha and 2 are beta. Okay, so we'll move on to our next slide and we'll see what happens to our hemoglobin structure. Okay. So look here, student, this is the hemoglobin structure. Now we'll try to observe what we have just now seen in the tree diagram. We have seen in the tree diagram that the molecule is a complete hemoglobin, and this is the complete hemoglobin structure. Okay. Now then the hemoglobin is consisting of 2 parts. This heme part, this ring part along with the red color center, this forms the heme part, and this chain, this 2 colored chain, purplish, violet purplish color and this bluish color chains are called as polypeptide chains. These chains will form the protein part, that is globin chain. Okay, this is heme and this is globin. Then again what happened? The heme part is again divided into iron and porphyrin. So look here, this is heme part and here you need to observe two units. So look here, students, here you will be able to observe one of the ring-like structure. This is called as porphyrin and the central red color atom is called as iron atom. Okay, this is the structure of heme. Now you are able to see 2 parts of the heme, isn't it? Iron and porphyrin. Now our globin chain. Globin chain is composed of 4 polypeptide chains, out of which 2 are alpha and 2 are beta chains, isn't it? This is the structure of hemoglobin. And one more thing, this heme group, you will not have a single heme group. In one hemoglobin, you are having a single globin chain. Globin protein chain is 1. It is composed of 4 polypeptide chains, 2 alpha and 2 beta. But the heme group, you will have 4 heme group. 1, 2, 3, 4. That means 4 iron atoms, 4 porphyrin rings, 4 disc-like ring-like structures, and 4 central red-colored atom. Okay. So that's why hemoglobin is called as a tetramer. Okay. Tetramer. 4 heme groups are present in hemoglobin. Now in this picture, now you just try to observe the chemistry involved in our hemoglobin. The beautiful chemistry comes into picture, that how hemoglobin is able to transport oxygen, we'll explore. Okay. So here also, like, you need to observe 2 parts, heme and globin. Here this iron part along with this porphyrin ring. This is the porphyrin ring structure. This is the iron and this ring is porphyrin ring structure. Okay. So this forms the heme part. This one is this one. Okay. The ring and the iron protein. Now where is your globin chain? Globin chain will be here because it is the amino acid. Proteins are nothing but a combination of amino acid. And in hemoglobin, histidine nitrogen will be attached to iron. Okay. So this is the globin part and the other part will be the attachment of oxygen. Okay. So now I hope that you people are able to correlate this structure with this one. Okay. Now we'll explore every part of the hemoglobin, like what this iron is doing, what is its structure and what function it is performing. We'll explore every single part now. So for that, we'll move on to our next slide. Okay. So look here, students. So look here, students. This is our This is our iron hemoglobin. Okay, so now at first we'll study about the chemistry of iron here. So why iron atom is present and what function it is performing and how it is helping in oxygen transport. Okay, so we need to remember two things here. Iron in hemoglobin is a 6 coordinated compound. Okay, it's having 6 coordination number. It's at 6 coordination sites. Look at here, student. The iron atom is attached to 4 nitrogens. 4 nitrogens like this. One will be oxygen and the other will be amino acid, globin chain, nitrogen of histidine amino acid. Okay. So 4 pyrrole rings, and this you can observe in this structure also. Here is your iron. It is attached to 4 nitrogens, and after that one bond is with this amino imidazole ring of globin chain of globin chain of protein, and the other bond will be with the oxygen atom. Okay, wherein oxygen will be bonded to iron atom in a end on terminal mode. It will be bent oxygen bonded in end on terminal mode. Okay, and so the coordination number of iron is 6, in which 4 bonds are with pyrrole rings. One is linked to protein and the other is linked to oxygen. And oxygen is attached in end-on terminal mode. Now, iron, it switches between high spin and low spin. Okay, it switches between high spin complex and low spin complex, resulting in attachment and detachment of oxygen. That means hemoglobin not only needs to hold the oxygen in lungs, it will catch the oxygen, and when it comes to our body part, it needs to give out the oxygen. So what will happen? This low spin high spin conversion will help iron to attach and to detach the oxygen. Okay, and the oxidation state of iron in hemoglobin is +2. These are very important questions from competitive examination point of view, wherein you will be asked about the coordination number of iron in hemoglobin, which is 6, and the oxidation state of hemoglobin, oxidation state of iron in hemoglobin, which is +2. So with this, we have understood about the function of iron. Why iron is here? Iron is here because it needs to hold the oxygen. It's playing a very important role. Like you people have been given oxygen, will be given oxygen, and that oxygen will be holded up, will be taken up by our iron atom in the hemoglobin. Okay, so with this we have completed studying about our iron. So iron is playing a very important role. Okay, now our next slide will be based on this porphyrin ring. Okay, the porphyrin ring. That porphyrin ring is composed of 4 pyrrole rings. Okay, the porphyrin ring is composed of 5-membered nitrogen containing heterocyclic ring called as pyrrole. Here you will have 4 pyrrole rings, which will 3 and the 4 pyrrole rings. All the 4 pyrrole rings will be attached by methane bridges like this. 1 carbon bridges. It is attached like this. And all the porphyrin ring is having conjugated 11 double bonds. The number of double bonds in hemoglobin in porphyrin ring is 11, which are in conjugation with each other. Okay, all the double bonds are in conjugation with each other, and on every pyrrole ring you will be having 2 substituents. Based on these substituents, there are number of porphyrin rings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the porphyrin ring 9 contains 2 4-methyl group, 2 propionyl and 2 vinyl groups. Okay, and 2 vinyl groups. Such arrangement of these substituents is seen in protoporphyrin 9, and this is only commonly seen in all the living system. Okay, where if you arrange the substituent in a different way, you will get different porphyrin structure. So we are concerned with This protoporphyrin 9 consisting of 4 methyl groups, 2 propionyl and 2 vinyl groups and 2 propionic acid groups. Okay, this is the structure of porphyrin ring, and porphyrin ring gives the characteristic hemoglobin its characteristic red color. So what was the function of iron? Its function was to hold up the oxygen and to release the oxygen, isn't it? Now our porphyrin ring is there, and what this porphyrin ring is doing, it's giving the red color to the hemoglobin, to RBC, and in turn to blood. So when we started our lecture, we were aware that our blood is red in color because of the presence of RBC, and as we have moved it in deeper, so then we came to know that it is because of RBC, and inside RBC hemoglobin is present. That's why blood is red in color. Now when you study hemoglobin clearly, here we came to know that red color of hemoglobin is because of this porphyrin ring. Okay, so iron is responsible for one function, and this porphyrin ring is responsible for the other function, which is the imparting of red color to the compound, to the hemoglobin. So now look here, students, our iron along with this heme group. Now our iron will come and it will sit up in this porphyrin ring. This was the porphyrin ring, and if we keep our iron inside it, then this will be called as heme group. In heme, iron is attached to 4 nitrogen only. 2 more bonds will be formed when the structure of hemoglobin completes. Okay, so as of now you can see that the pyrrole ring, inside the pyrrole ring, it's like ring, it's the ring like this, and here the iron has came and it has sit. So we studied iron separately, we have studied this ring separately. When you join this ring with this metal atom, it will be called as heme. Okay, this is called as heme group. Okay, now we'll move on to our next slide. So the next part is globin chain. Okay, now we'll study about the globin chain in hemoglobin. For this, at first I want you to explore the protein structure through a video. Okay, so at first we'll be exploring this video. Now, as we say, globin chain is a protein, and when I say it's a protein, the protein is nothing but it's a chain of amino acid. What is amino acid? Amino group, acid group, and in between a carbon with an R group. If the R group varies, the amino acid will change. Okay, so now see how amino acid structure will be in actual. Okay, so have a look at the video, student. See, this is the primary structure of protein, wherein all the amino acids have joined in a sequence, in a chain like fashion. Okay, this is called as the primary structure of protein. Okay, all the amino acids come up and they have joined. Amino acid is nothing, proteins are nothing but the polymer of amino acids, isn't it? So all amino acids have joined, and if amino acids molecular weight is less than 10,000, then it will be called as polypeptide chain, and if it is more than 10,000, then we'll call it as protein. Okay, both are one and the same. Both are the polymers of amino acids. Short polymers will be polypeptides, and long polymers will be the protein. Okay, so this was the primary structure wherein all the amino acids are arranged in a single sequence. Now we'll move on to the next structure, which is secondary structure. Now what happens? This chain will start folding. It will now fold up. How can it fold? It can get folded in 2 forms. Okay, if it gets folded like this, it is called beta pleated sheath. or else if it gets folded like this is the alpha helix, just like our DNA, then this structure will be called as alpha helix, and this is the beta pleated sheets. Both are the secondary structures. That means now at first our amino acid was just a straight chain. Now it has started to turn like this. Okay, it is turning into a helical structure or beta pleated sheet structure. This is called as secondary structure of protein. Now then if it still folds further, if we fold this amino acid chain further very much, then this folded structure will be called as tertiary structure. Look here student, here it is getting more folded and this structure is called as tertiary structure, and this folding will not open up because at every folding they'll form a they'll be forming bonds. Okay, but like hydrophobic interactions will be there, hydrogen bonds will be there, and so on. Because of this bonding, this folding will not open up. So this contributes to the tertiary structure of protein. Now if you have, this is about one polypeptide chain. If you have 2-3 similar polypeptide chains attached, then that will result in the quaternary structure of protein, which we are able to see in our hemoglobin. In our hemoglobin also, what we have seen? We have seen 4 polypeptide chains, which are 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. So the globin chain, the globin protein in hemoglobin is consisting of the quaternary structure. Okay, so now let us move back to our slide. So this is our globin chain, isn't it? This is our globin chain, which is globular protein. It is existing in quaternary structure. 2 alpha chains it is having, 2 beta chains it is having, and it is the basic protein. Globin in all the different species of in different species in hemoglobin, only the globin in globin part the amino acid sequence will change. At first if it is glycine alanine, then alanine glycine, like that there will be some changes in the protein chain only. And globin is rich in histidine and lysine amino acid. Like globin chain is formed by amino acid, but it will be more rich in histidine and lysine amino acid. As we have already seen, iron is attached to the globin chain with the histidine amino acid only. That nitrogen, the down nitrogen which we have shown, it is the histidine amino acid. Okay, so in this picture also we can observe the primary structure. See, chemically amine group, acid group with an R group. Okay, here will be an R group. So different amino acids forms peptide bond and they'll join in a sequence contributing primary structure. That primary structure may get folded and it will form secondary structure. It will still more fold and it will form the tertiary structure. And if you combine 2 to 3 polypeptide chains, this will result in quaternary structure. So our globin chain is in quaternary structure. So with this we have completed studying about the globin chain. As we have studied in iron, first we have studied the properties of iron, then its function, then porphyrin ring and its characteristic and its function. Now we have studied about the characteristics of globin chain. Now we'll move on to the function of globin chain. Okay, so what is the need to have this globin chain and how it is helping? So globin chain does not allow heme subunits to interact. Okay, here in a last diagram in our hemoglobin structure, just observe this structure once again. Look here student, in single hemoglobin molecule, how many heme groups you are having? You are having 4 heme groups. That means this type of structure will be 4 and protein chain is 1 only, globin chain is there. Okay, so these structures are 4 heme groups you are having. Okay, so what these four heme groups will do, this globin chain, as you can see, this globin chain is present between two heme groups, and they are separating and they are keeping the heme group separate. So in a single hemoglobin molecule, you are having four iron atoms. So four oxygen molecule will be carried out. So a single hemoglobin will attach four, will take up four oxygen molecules. Here one oxygen, here one, and here one. Okay, but these iron heme molecule will not meet each other. They are separated with the help of this globin chain. Globin chain is helping in the separation, keeping the heme unit separated. And why do we need to keep this heme unit separated? We'll see in a present slide. Okay, look here, students. This is the, suppose if our globin chain is absent, it is not present. So what will happen? This is the porphyrin ring and this is the iron. No globin chain now. Now the iron atom attaches to oxygen and it forms the superoxo complex. Okay. As soon as it forms the superoxo complex, it will see the other heme group. Now globin chain is not there in between them to separate them. Okay. So what will happen? This heme and this heme, it's combining. How it is combining? Like this. See, this heme, okay, this heme and this heme has combined and they formed a peroxo complex. Okay, they'll form wherein iron will be in +3 oxidation state, and again this peroxo complex will be converted into ferryle complex, and this ferryle complex will at last again combine with another heme unit and it will get converted into hematin. This structure is called as hematin. Okay, this is called hematin. And what does hematin do? Like actually it must he must carry oxygen like this now, but in this structure you can see that our oxygen bond has been locked. It has been locked between two iron units. So what happens? At lungs, and as usual, without globin also, the iron will take up oxygen. But when it comes to our tissue, what will happen? It will not be able to give away the oxygen. Why? Because oxygen is locked in between two heme units. So the hemoglobin will lose its reversible oxygen binding capacity due to hematin formation. Once hematin is formed, oxygen cannot be donated. Like oxygen is only attached, it cannot be detached. So globin chain is very, very, very important in the oxygen transport, as it is keeping the heme group separate and letting it attach and detach the oxygen, helping the iron to bind reversibly to oxygen. Okay, this is about the role of globin chain. Now with this we have completed the complete structure of hemoglobin, wherein we have studied about the iron atom, which is existing in +2 oxidation state with a coordination number of 6, and it is surrounded by a ring like structure called as porphyrin ring, which gives red color to the blood, and it is containing level double bond. Okay, then you are having the oxygen binded to the iron atom, and on the other side there is the imidazole group of histidine, which is a part of globin chain. Globin chain will be there. Okay, this is the complete structure of hemoglobin. This is heme and this is heme and this is the globin part. Okay, globin part is one, and structures like this are three more. Okay, so single hemoglobin is a tetramer. It is having 4 heme groups. Okay, with this we have completed about the overall structure of hemoglobin. So now we'll move on to our next slide to study the geometrical concepts of hemoglobin. Okay, now as you can see in this present slide, that whenever hemoglobin is attached to oxygen, it is called as oxyhemoglobin, and whenever it is not attached to oxygen, it is called as deoxyhemoglobin. Okay, so now As soon as you look at this structure, what are you observing? What kind of geometry it is having? See, iron is attached to 4 nitrogens in one plane, and the oxygen is above the plane, and the globin chain is below the plane. And this type of structure will be called as octahedral structure, isn't it? It's the octahedral structure. Okay. Now we'll study the electronic and magnetic properties of these compounds. So look here. So observe here, student. The iron atom is acting as the metal. This is one type of coordination compound, wherein iron atom is coordinated to 6 ligands. Okay. So what will happen? So our iron, it is having an atomic number of 26 and its electronic configuration is 3d6 4s2. As it is a coordinated compound, it will undergo splitting, isn't it? As it is attached to ligand, this will undergo splitting. So iron in oxyhemoglobin is a low spin complex. Okay. So iron oxidation state in hemoglobin is Fe+2. So electronic configuration, that means Fe+2 means you must remove this 4s2 electrons. Only 3d6 electrons are present. So that d6, as it is the octahedral compound, octahedral structure with a 6 coordination number. So what will happen? The orbitals will split in octahedral geometry. Okay, this splitting will occur in the form of T2G and Eg. Okay, now as it is a low spin complex, all the 6 electrons will get fill up in the T2G orbital. First 3 electrons will be filled up, and the 4th electron it will try to enter the Eg orbital, but as the pairing energy is lesser than splitting energy, the electrons will prefer to pair up in T2G. So all the 6 electrons will get paired up in T2G. Okay. So do you see any unpaired electron here? No, we are not able to observe any unpaired electron. If you are not able to observe any unpaired electron, then the compound magnetic property will be considered as diamagnetic, isn't it? The compound is diamagnetic. Its magnetic moment will be 0. Now we'll observe the case with deoxyhemoglobin. In deoxyhemoglobin also, it's a high spin complex. High spin complex means first 3 electrons will be filled up, and then 4th electron will be filled up in Eg. Once all the orbitals are half filled, then pairing starts. Okay. And due to the interaction between T2G set and the pi electrons of porphyrin ring, porphyrin ring, what happens? It will further undergo distortions called as rhombic distortions, and it will split in this form. Okay, so deoxyhemoglobin it will split up in this manner, wherein it will be having 4 unpaired electrons. It is having 4 unpaired electrons, then the magnetic property of this compound, this deoxyhemoglobin, is paramagnetic. It is having some magnetic moment. Okay, as it is having unpaired electrons. So these are very, very important points from the competitive exam point of view, wherein you will be asked oxidation state of iron, which is +2, coordination of more of iron, which is 6, and the magnetic property of oxyhemoglobin, diamagnetic, magnetic property of deoxyhemoglobin, that is paramagnetic. Like this, they may ask you questions in competitive exam. Now we'll move on to our next part. Okay, so here we'll be studying about cooperative effect. Okay, cooperative effect. What is cooperative effect? Is, as we have discussed, our hemoglobin is consisting of, as you can see here, it consists of 4 heme groups. So every heme group is attaching one oxygen molecule, isn't it? So in a complete hemoglobin molecule, you need to get 4 attached oxygens, isn't it? Now you will be having 4 attached oxygen. So what happens? Oxygen comes, first oxygen come, and it will find it very difficult for it to get attached to oxygen, because there will be a globin chain, and it to cross and to get into it, it will take much time. Okay, so around, if for example, if we say the first oxygen binds to first hemoglobin in 10 minutes, then after this what will happen, there will have there takes place some changes which will help the second molecules to bind in lesser time. For example, it binds in within 5 minutes, and this will help the third molecule to bind in still more lesser time, like 2 minutes. And this the last molecule can bind even in, oxygen molecule can bind even within 1 minute. Okay, so what is happening? One oxygen is binding and it is facilitating the other oxygens. It is helping, it's creating a good environment wherein they can easily come and attach. So fourth oxygen will be attached faster. Okay, it will be attached in very less time. Okay, so for example, if just like, for example, in a family there are no educated person and it's the first generation of learners. So what will happen? That first people will have to face many problems, isn't it? They don't know about what to do. They don't know any proper information. They need to work very hard. They need to gather information. All those things they need to do. But once they have completed it, what will happen? For other generations, they'll guide them. The other generations will not face those that much of problem and that much of hard work they need not do. They will be guided in a specific way where they can go freely. Okay, so it will be easier for them. In a similar way, the first oxygen binding is doing all the hard work, and it is helping it is creating a smooth environment for others to come and attach. Okay, so here the first hemoglobin, second, third, fourth. When we calculate equilibrium constant, the K4 is the highest and K1 is the lowest, indicating that K4, like fourth oxygen, will be attached very faster. Okay, this effect is called cooperative effect. Binding of first oxygen of one subunit is not so easy, but once binding takes place, due to structural change, it allows binding of other oxygen. Okay, so this is called as cooperative effect. Okay, then we'll move on to our next slide. Like human beings follow sharing, caring phenomena. Here hemoglobin is also like doing the same thing, isn't it? Now we have studied about the cooperative effect. Okay, it was discovered that in hemoglobin the fourth oxygen is attaching very faster, so it's a cooperative effect they have discovered. But why? What is happening? What changes in hemoglobin is happening which is helping the other oxygens to attach that much easily? This mechanism, this process was discovered by Perutz. So this is called as Perutz mechanism. Okay, so what did he told? He told okay, what did he do? Okay, 1 minute. So he told that in deoxy form, in like when oxygen is not bound, this is when the oxygen is bound. Okay, so when oxygen is not bound, what will happen? The cavity of porphyrin ring will be like this. Okay, but the iron size will be bigger. It will not be fixed in this one. Okay, so it will protrude out. Okay, this will not come up in, it will not fit in the ring. Instead, it will be just above. Okay, it will not be in the cavity. As you can see here, it is not in the cavity. But when the first oxygen attaches, here this is the protein chain. So the protein chain of amino acid is very big. So with one of the amino acid, this oxygen will form a hydrogen bond. And due to this, there will be a pulling of this nitrogen towards the porphyrin ring. And so that, and also after attachment it will decrease in size. So now the iron is exactly fitting in the cavity of porphyrin ring. Okay, so because of this, it becomes, there will be some structural change in the conformational change in the protein chain, globin chain, which will help the other molecules, other oxygen molecules to bind very easily. This deoxyhemoglobin state is called T state or tau state. Okay, wherein the iron is not able to fit within the cavity of porphyrin ring. And when first oxygen attaches, see, there will be some rotation, there will be some change in the peptide chain, and this will facilitate the addition of other oxygen. And this was discovered by Perroud. So that's why we'll be calling it as Perroud's mechanism. Okay. Now have a look here. Here the same thing is happening, wherein the same thing has been explained here. Okay. So in deoxyhemoglobin, the size of the iron atom is bigger, so it is not able to, which is around 92 picometer, so it will not fit in the ring. Whereas when it attaches to first oxygen, it is smaller than smaller, so it will fit in the porphyrin ring. Okay, so the cooperative effect was explained by Perroud. Now with this, we have completed the complete structure of hemoglobin, and individually we have studied about every single part of hemoglobin. Now we'll move on to the function of hemoglobin. Okay, as you can see here, this is the red blood cells containing the hemoglobin. So this green color disc shown here along with the center iron atom. Okay, this is the heme part and this is the oxygen attached. So what is the function of hemoglobin? Its function is to attach with oxygen, and this function I want to explore I want you to explore it through this video. Okay, so we'll be exploring the function of, okay, we'll be exploring the function of proteins. Okay, so now what function hemoglobin is doing? As we all know, it is taking up oxygen and it is giving out the oxygen. Now how does that taking place, and what is taking place? We'll see that now. Okay, so have a look here, students. This is the oxygen molecule. Okay, this is the oxygen molecules, and the oxygen is entering the lungs now. Okay, as soon as the oxygen enters the lungs, here there are some arteries and veins. Okay, in arteries and veins the blood is flowing, and in the blood we are having RBCs. Here oxygen is there, now our RBCs are going. At present are RBCs, that means inside which we have hemoglobin. The hemoglobin is not carrying oxygen because it came to lungs. It traveled from our tissue and it came to our lungs. So it is not having any oxygen. So the deoxy form of hemoglobin will be purplish red in color. Okay, so this is purplish red in color, and when it comes to lungs, it will take up the oxygen and it will turn into reddish color. So hemoglobin carrying oxygen color is red, whereas hemoglobin not carrying oxygen is purplish red in color. So look here, students, what is happening? Observe in the video. See, purplish red, they are taking up oxygen, they are turning red. They are taking up oxygen and they are turning into red color. Okay, this is happening at lungs, where oxygen partial pressure is very high. All the oxygen is going into lungs, so much of the much of the oxygen is there. So inside that, what actually is happening, that we have seen externally. So inside, actually, who is taking oxygen? Our hemoglobin is taking oxygen. It has 4 heme groups. Now see, oxygen is coming and attaching to the heme group, and the color is changing to red, isn't it? 4 heme groups are there. So 4 oxygen molecule will come and they'll attach. Whenever oxygen leaves, it will again turn back into purplish color. Okay, this is our heme part. Oxygen will come and it will take up and it will turn red in color. See, oxygen attach, red color. Okay, oxygen detach, again purple color. Now observe this. Now our blood has moved. It was at lungs. Now it has taken up oxygen and it came to our body part. Now at body part there is no oxygen, low partial pressure of oxygen. As soon as it sees the low partial pressure of oxygen, what it will do? It will give away the oxygen. There is no oxygen there, so it will start giving up the oxygen. See here, it's giving away the oxygen. That red colored hemoglobin will turn purplish. See, red color hemoglobin, red color RBC, they are turning into purplish color red tissues. Okay. See, oxygen is being given, and they are turning purplish. Oxygen is being given and they are changing into deoxy. Oxy is getting changed into deoxy. They are giving up oxygen at tissues, so where the oxygen content is low. Okay. So with this, we have completed the function of hemoglobin. As you have seen, the hemoglobin is taking up oxygen at tissue level. So same can be represented in a diagrammatic form like this. Okay. Here what is happening? Our iron. See, oxygen. This is happening at lungs. There is much of oxygen. So oxygen is getting inside the RBC. It is attaching to the iron part and the iron will turn red in color. Okay. And then next what will happen? This iron part, when the blood moves to tissues, there is no oxygen. So the oxygen from iron will detach and it will get into the tissues. Okay. This is how hemoglobin is taking up oxygen at lungs and giving out oxygen at tissue level. Okay. The same thing can be observed here also, wherein red blood cells are taking oxygen, it is turning into red color, and then oxygen is released in the molecule. Okay. So now here you can observe that hemoglobin functions one more thing. Not only transport oxygen from lungs to other body parts, it will perform one more important function. And what it is? It is the transport of carbon dioxide, isn't it? So what it will do? The respiration process consists of two parts: inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation is oxygen uptake and exhalation is CO2, like removal of CO2. So in the complete process, hemoglobin is involved. When we inhale oxygen, it will take up oxygen, it will take it to the body parts and it will give here. And here we'll have carbon dioxide. So what it will do, hemoglobin? It will give away the oxygen, it will take up the carbon dioxide and it will come back to lungs containing carbon dioxide. Again here it will give back the carbon dioxide and that carbon dioxide will come out of our body. Okay. See, air is taken, oxygen is absorbed, it is converted, it is given to tissues, and from tissues carbon dioxide is been taken and it is again goes to lungs and it is exhaled out. Okay. So now we'll observe, now we will be paying attention to the transport of carbon dioxide with the help of Bose effect. And now tell me, like at lungs there is full oxygen, which is indicating hemoglobin to take up the oxygen atom. Like when there is full oxygen, hemoglobin has very much oxygen binding affinity, it will take up the oxygen. But at tissue level, how it is able to dissociate oxygen? What factors determine this? What factors determine this is, like at tissue level, the concentration of carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion concentration will affect the oxygen binding affinity. That means whenever the CO2 level at tissue is high, then hemoglobin comes. When hemoglobin comes, it will get an indication that here the carbon dioxide is very high. So I need to remove my oxygen. I can't keep my oxygen. So it will remove its oxygen and it will take up the carbon dioxide. And this effect is called as Bohr's effect. That means oxygen binding capacity of hemoglobin is inversely related to carbon dioxide. High carbon dioxide, hemoglobin will lose its oxygen. Low carbon dioxide, hemoglobin will take up oxygen. Okay. So this Chiptov curve we will see in our further slides. At present, we will observe this Bohr effect with the help of one video. Okay. So for that we need to watch this video. Okay. So just to have a look at this video wherein we'll be able to explore the Bohr's effect. Okay, actually what is happening and how CO2 is getting transported with the help of hemoglobin. Okay, look here students, this is the okay. This is the hemoglobin, where what will happen here at lungs, it will take up the oxygen and it will be oxyhemoglobin, and when it comes to tissues, it will give away the oxygen, it will be deoxyhemoglobin. This is about the oxygen transport. Now we need to transport CO2 also. So what happens to CO2, we'll see now. Okay, so look here. Now our hemoglobin has traveled from lungs, it has taken oxygen and it came down to our tissues. Now in tissues, we are having carbon dioxide there. So this hemoglobin is present in tissues now, in the body parts. Now whenever it sees carbon dioxide, it will transport carbon dioxide. It will exhale carbon dioxide in two forms, mainly two forms. Okay, what are those? In first form, what will happen? This carbon dioxide will come and attach to this globin chain, amino acid chain. And as soon as it attaches, the oxygen will be leaved. As soon as carbon dioxide attaches, the hemoglobin will get an indication that I must leave oxygen here. So oxygen will be supplied to the body part and carbon dioxide will be attached. Now this attached carbon dioxide, it will take up from body parts to the lungs, and from lungs it will come out. Okay. See here. It will, as soon as it attaches, this will form carbamino hemoglobin. Okay. So now oxygen will be removed. Oxygen binding capacity, oxygen affinity is decreased for hemoglobin and oxygen has been removed, and this happened at tissue level. Now this, so now this is one type of okay, this is one type of transport of CO2. And in other method, what will happen, and this method was actually discovered by Bohr, so we will call this as Bohr effect. In the other method, what will happen? CO2 will be there at tissue, in my body parts. So here CO2 is there, and this CO2, it enters into RBC. It is present in plasma or blood. From there, it is entering into RBC. Okay, what will happen inside RBC? This carbon dioxide will combine with water molecule and it will form carbonic acid. This carbonic acid is unstable, so it will change into bicarbonate ion and H plus ion. As H plus ion concentration is increasing, the pH of the blood will get acidic. The pH, actually the blood pH should be neutral, but the pH is now getting acidic. Where? At the tissues. This is happening at tissue level. Here oxygen content is low. So as soon as the oxygenated hemoglobin which is coming here, as soon as it comes and it sees this situation that pH of blood is dropping, what it will do? It will remove its oxygen and it will take up the hydrogen and it will maintain the pH back to normal. In this way, it will act as buffer, and this carbonate ion will be transported out into plasma. They are not going out of the blood. They are just going out of RBC into blood, okay, into plasma. And see here, and this reaction will be brought about by carbonic anhydrase enzyme. Okay, this enzyme will brought up this reaction. Now carbonate ion will be released in the plasma, and to maintain electrical neutrality, chlorine will come inside, and this is called as chloride shift. Now the 4 hydrogens have been taken up by 4 that hemoglobin molecule containing 4 heme groups. Okay, now look at the next thing. Now they are moving into lungs. Now this structure complete, it moved into lungs. When it moves to lungs, what will happen? Just observe here. As it has moved to lungs, now what will happen here? The more amount of oxygen is there. When there is more oxygen, the oxygen will try to bind to hemoglobin. So now hemoglobin at lungs, it will remove, it will leave back its hydrogen. Okay, it is leaving back the hydrogen. Now this, look here. Now it is leaving back the hydrogen. Now this hydrogen, it will, and the CO2 directly attached will we directly exit. It directly comes and it will directly leave. But this carbonic acid, the CO2 which is converted into bicarbonate ion, for this what happens? The hydrogen ions will get replaced. So all the 4 hydrogens are replaced with all the 4 hydrogens. Okay. Now bicarbonate ion again from outside, they'll move inside. So reverse of what happened here will take place here. Okay. So reverse of what happened here will take place here. Here now bicarbonate ion and H plus ion will combine and they'll form CO2 and H2O in presence of the same enzyme carbonic anhydrase. Okay. So look here. As soon as CO2 is formed in lungs, at lungs the CO2 cannot be like that. So it will be exhaled out. It will go out. Understood? So what is happening? The CO2 is getting transported in 2 forms. One is directly attached to hemoglobin and it directly goes. In the other form, it is converted into bicarbonate ion and H plus ion, and again it moves to lungs. Here it is converted into bicarbonate and H plus CO2. When it comes to lungs, it will be converted back to carbon dioxide, and from here it will be exhaled out. Okay, this is how the CO2 is being transported, and this is called as Bohr effect. Okay, this is called as Bohr effect. This is what happens. See, carbon dioxide, it is converted into bicarbonate ion moved into plasma, and the H plus have been attached to hemoglobin. Then next, the reverse of the reaction takes place and CO2 will be expelled out. Okay, and at lungs. This is the Bohr effect summary, wherein oxidized hemoglobin is attached to H plus and CO2 at tissues, and they'll move to lungs and it will be exhaled out. Okay, so this was about the transport of carbon dioxide. Now we will see the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. Okay, what does this curve indicate? That what we have studied, it is a graphical representation of the same thing. Okay, now what will happen here? Here it's showing that the partial pressure of oxygen versus oxyhemoglobin saturation. That means how much amount of oxygen the hemoglobin is able to take. For example, as the presence of oxygen is increasing, the hemoglobin is taking up more and more oxygen. Okay, when the oxygen partial pressure is 70, the hemoglobin is taking up, it's getting 80% saturated. That means 80% of hemoglobin is filled with oxygen, it is taking up. And there is a shift. There will be left shift and there will be a right shift. Okay, when will this happen? This will happen if right shift happens, then there will be an easy oxygen delivery. That means oxygen hemoglobin will not prefer to bind to oxygen. When this will happen, it will happen at high hydrogen concentration, high CO2 concentration, and high 2,3-DPG. 2,3-DPG is this one, 2,3-diphosphoglyceric acid. This acid is present. What it will do? like this is the oxyhemoglobin which is stable. Okay, this is deoxyhemoglobin. This 2,3-DPG, what it will do, it will bind up and it will stabilize the deoxyhemoglobin. Now deoxyhemoglobin will not it will not it will not be in a mood to take up oxygen. As it is stable, it will not prefer binding to oxygen. Okay, so what happens? So now for the same thing, if even if 70% of oxygen is there, our hemoglobin will take up only 70 mmHg of 70% saturation. Okay, that means it is taking up less amount of oxygen. Or else if it is less amount of CO, less amount of 2,3-DPG is there, then this is unstable and it will take up more oxygen. So right shift and left shift of dissociation curve happens, and the dissociation curve of oxygen hemoglobin is in sigmoid shape. Like as soon as the quantity of oxygen is increasing, first oxygen is attached, then the slope is increasing faster because of cooperativity. Okay, this was about oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. Okay, so now the next parts include the normal level of hemoglobin. Normal hemoglobin level includes in adult male it is 13 to 18 gram per deciliter, adult female 11.5 to 16.5, full term baby 13.5 to 19.5, and infant 8 to 10, and child 10 to 13. These are the levels of hemoglobin for a healthy and healthy hemoglobin and healthy oxygen transport. And if you lack your hemoglobin, if you lack your iron, what will happen? It will lead to a condition called as anemia. That means if you have less iron in your body, then that means your oxygen transport is getting affected. And if you have less than 11 gram per dl of hemoglobin, deciliter of hemoglobin, it will be mild anemia. 11 to 9 will be moderate, and less than 9 is the severe anemia. And here you need a serious treatment for the disease. Okay. Now, if you want to save yourself and lead a happy, healthy life, you need to eat iron-rich foods for a good oxygen transport and good carbon dioxide removal. And these are some of the iron-rich foods which we must eat to avoid anemia and to have a healthy hemoglobin oxygen transport. Okay, now we'll see some of the frequently asked questions in competitive exams. With this, we have completed the studying of structure and function of complete hemoglobin. Now we'll have a look at some of the frequently asked questions in competitive exams. Okay, which includes, so the first question is, the oxidation state of iron in oxyhemoglobin is, it's +2, it's +3, it's -3, it's +3. The answer will be +2. Okay. In most of the books and most of the places will follow +2. In some places you'll also find +3, but in general we'll go with +2 oxidation state. Okay. So the next question is, the magnetic property of deoxyhemoglobin is, deoxyhemoglobin is it magnetic, diamagnetic, paramagnetic? None. What did we study? We studied that the deoxyhemoglobin is having 4 unpaired electrons. That means it is paramagnetic in nature. Then the next topic is, what is the role of globin chain in hemoglobin? What does globin chain do? Helps in the chromatin formation, prevents chromatin formation, give colors to the hemoglobin, helps iron to switch between high spin and low spin. So the correct answer is B. It prevents chromatin formation. Okay. The last question is, the coordination number of iron in hemoglobin and number of double bonds in hemoglobin is, the first option is 11. Coordination number is of iron in oxyhemoglobin is 11. Is it? No. So this option is wrong. The next, coordination number of iron in oxyhemoglobin is 2 and double bond 6. No. The third option, Coordination number of iron is 6 and double number of double bond is 11. So this is the correct option. So third option is correct. Okay. In this way, you will be asked some of the questions from this topic, and the oxygen dissociation curve, shape of the oxidation dissociation curve is sigmoid. Like this, questions will be asked. And with this, we have completed studying complete hemoglobin structure. And I hope that from after this video, you will not miss any of the question which comes from hemoglobin in your competitive exam. So now I would like to end my video, and I would like to thank Gurukulam and our principal KP Nirikshan Rao sir for giving us this wonderful opportunity to conduct this online lecture. So thank you everyone for your patience listening, and hope to see you soon. Stay home and be safe. Thank you.